As I mentioned before, it's time to explain how the little or significant deviations of the normal blood pH can be adjusted. And I want to emphasize the three mechanisms that our physiology is using in order to adjust that acid base if it is away from the normal. We talk about specifically about the blood pH. In blood pH, that is, the range is very, very tight because it's between the lowest one is 735, the highest one is 745, the average 7.4 is a very tight range that is very, very sensitive. In general talking, when the blood pH become alkaline, that is in that scale is become higher with lower concentration of hydrogen, is the one that eventually, if it is too extreme, produce or trigger a very high stimulation of the central nervous system, and the patient eventually can produce seizures. On the contrary, if the blood pH drop drastically without the time to adjust it, that is below 735, and have to be a significant drop in that blood pH, the central nervous system gets absolutely depressed. And when the central nervous system gets depressed, decrease the heart rate and decrease the breathing rate, making the situation even more difficult to adjust. But let's go to that normal system for acid-base balance. There are three systems that you have over here. The first mechanism that our physiology uses is the adjusting between these two molecules that I referred in the previous video, bicarbonate and carbonic acid. Is the first mechanism if the deviation of the blood pH is little. In that little adjustment, that little deviation, these two molecules play between each other, either acting as an acid, that the bicarbonate is an acid, or either as bicarbonate that, this one is an acid, and bicarbonate is a base because it's absorbing hydrogens. Basically, the game or the play between these two molecules are the one that automatically adjust the blood pH when the deviation is tiny. I took the time to refer over here these two samples and how these two molecules can take place and can produce the chemical reaction. Let's pretend in this scenario that the blood pH increased from 7.45, that is the maximum, to 7.5. That is a little, but this is still a deviation from the normal. And that range is really very sensitive. Automatically, what is the situation in this scenario? In this scenario is that we have less amount of hydrogen in the blood pH. How we can increase the amount of hydrogen in a little amount to adjust it? We are using the carbonic acid, because the carbonic acid, when is exposed to this scenario, automatically is split in bicarbonate and hydrogen. Splitting in bicarbonate and hydrogen increase the amount of hydrogen in the system and bring the pH back to normal. The other scenario is what happened, I'm using the first mechanism, what happened if the blood pH drop from the minimum level, that is 7.35, to 7. 7 is neutral, but it's still not the normal pH for blood. And in this case, when it's dropping to 7, increase the amount of hydrogen. because the pH dropped. Now, increasing the amount of hydrogen, we need to use one of the two molecules that is capable to absorb hydrogen. Certainly is not carbonic acid, is the bicarbonate. Now you have over here the bicarbonate is used to absorb hydrogen and convert it in carbonic acid. And in this way, you see how these two molecules, bicarbonate and carbonic acid, are playing between each other in order to balance the acid base out in a little adjustment. Now, when this adjustment need to be higher, these two molecules are not enough. And we engage the second mechanism, that is the respiratory system. The respiratory system adjusts that deviations in the blood pH in the only way they have, that is adjusting the breathing rate. In other words, I keep a scenario, and I want to finish to explain this one. So the second mechanism is the lungs and increasing or decreasing the breathing rate. So let's pretend that the pH increase really above the level that these two molecules are capable to adjust it. Now, in this scenario, when the pH of the blood increase and the levels of carbon dioxide decrease, remember that always are parallel. Carbon dioxide and hydrogen levels are always back to back. So, in other words, how we can reduce the amount of, how we can increase the amount of hydrogen is in this level. In this level, the pH reach, for example, 8. Now, how we are going to do it? The levels of hydrogen is reduced. So we are going to reduce the breathing rate. Reduce the breathing rate, we eliminate less amount of carbon dioxide and we keep more hydrogen. Now, on the contrary, if we have a pH that drops significantly below the level that these two molecules can adjust, we are going to engage the respiratory system. And the reason why is because it's fast. The response is really very fast. Now, how we are going to adjust that drop in the blood pH that represent drop in the blood pH represent higher amount of hydrogen. So if we have higher amount of hydrogen, we have higher amount of carbon dioxide. So how we are going to adjust it? Increasing the breathing rate. Increasing the breathing rate, we eliminate more carbon dioxide and we can bring that pH back to normal. Now, let me talk about the kidneys before I explain what you have over here. The kidney has also a very important role in balancing the acid base out. How the kidneys are doing? Well, there are two molecules that play a very important role in the acid base balance. One is the bicarbonate and the other one is the hydrogen. How the kidneys can balancing out is a little more complex, and there are different type of terminology that you have to be familiar with. The kidneys are adjusting the levels of bicarbonate or hydrogen accordingly with the scenario. Now, what is happening in this system is slow. Is really takes several days. So if we have a drop significantly or a change either below or above the normal level that cannot be adjusted by the respiratory system, is the kidney that is supporting that action. But it's a little more complex because it's always adjusting the levels of bicarbonate and hydrogen levels. Now, let me present one scenario and you have to challenge yourself. Challenge yourself in the way that you can present different scenarios and try to make a brainstorm and come out with an analysis, because you have to apply a rationale for that. I keep the scenario in case the blood pH increased to 9. Now, obviously, increase to 9 is above the level that these two molecules can play between each other and adjust it. In this scenario, we are going to use the respiratory system if it's possible, because what happens if the patient has a restrictive respiratory disorder and we cannot use too much the respiratory system? Is a problem. However, let's pretend that is not the case. When we have a pH of 9 or above, we need to engage the respiratory system. What happened in pH 9? In pH 9, we are in this size of this scale, and graphing and visualization is crucial to understand and to analyze the answers. So if you are not very familiar with that, during the test you can struggle. Now, in pH 9, the respiratory system, keep in mind, 9, we are over here. What happened over there? In that size of the scale, we have a low, very low concentration of hydrogen. And in this scenario, we need to decrease the breathing rate in order to retain more carbon dioxide. Reducing the breathing rate will retain more carbon dioxide, and the hydrogen level increase, and we bring it back to normal. Now, what happens simultaneously if the respiratory system is not enough or is not capable to balancing out by itself? We need to engage the kidneys. We need to engage the urinary system. What the kidneys are doing, and please take the time to analyze the wording. The kidneys they have to adjust the level. Now, we are in this scenario. We have very low amount of hydrogen. Now, the first reaction that our body will have in the kidneys is to, you read over here, increase the reabsorption of hydrogen that remain in the tubes before they are eliminated in the collecting tube. So we increase the reabsorption of hydrogen because we need to increase the amount of hydrogen in this scale. But also, the kidney produce the secretion or increase the secretion of bicarbonate, because we don't need that molecule too much that is capable to absorb hydrogen. Remember, this bicarbonate is capable to absorb hydrogen. Now, keep in mind these two words, because increase the secretion of bicarbonate, increase secretion of bicarbonate is pretty much the same that decrease the reabsorption of bicarbonate. And increase the reabsorption of hydrogen is the same that decrease the secretion of hydrogen. So keep in mind and be clear about what is the movement of the molecule in reabsorption or in secretion, because it's a very basic physiological movement for molecules in our body. Either reabsorption, in the case of the kidneys is reabsorption retaining in your body, and secretion is eliminated from your body. Now, other scenario that you can play with, and you can present another one by yourself too. The other scenario is when the pH decrease in a level that is not adjusted by these two molecules. So we need to engage the respiratory system. And how we are going to engage the respiratory system? We need to increase the ventilation. Remember, ventilation is breathing. Shh. Charlie? No, no. Increase the ventilation, we increase the breathing out. And increasing the breathing out, we eliminate carbon dioxide, and eliminating carbon dioxide, we eliminate, keep the scale back to normal. Sorry for the distraction, but my dog was barking. But certainly, increase the ventilation is eliminating really large amount of carbon dioxide. What happened in the kidneys? And this one is important for you to play with. Now, keep in mind this scenario, pH 5, and in case the respiratory system is not able to adjust it by itself, the body will engage the third mechanism, that is the urinary system. What happened in the kidneys? Keep in mind the scenario, pH 5, low, high amount of hydrogen, very high amount of hydrogen. Now, we increase the ventilation to eliminate more carbon dioxide and bring that hydrogen level reduced back to normal. But in the kidneys, what happened in the kidneys? What happened with these two molecules, bicarbonate and hydrogen? Do we need hydrogen? No, because it's already high. So what we are going to do, we are going to stimulate or increase the secretion of hydrogen through the urine. It's the same thing that we are going to decrease the reabsorption of hydrogen. We don't need more hydrogen in plasma at this time. Now, what happened with the bicarbonate? We have an acidic situation. We are going to increase the reabsorption of bicarbonate, and that is the same thing that we are going to decrease the secretion of bicarbonate. So we are going to inhibit the secretion of bicarbonate because we need to retain more bicarbonate in our body. And again, my desire was to present this explanation and graphing that I hope is helping you to study.